All right, so today we're going to be talking about making the clickball project. So in this project, we're going to be, talking about what does a video game have in it, and we're going to be focusing on three basic elements of a very basic game that we're going to be creating. So the first thing is the game environment, and that's the settings or the world that we're playing in. So the layout of our world. We also need to have like the rules. How is the game played? What are the constraints? And then the last thing is we need, a way to win, a victory condition. And we're going to be focusing on those three things. So we're going to create a new project. So hopefully we all remember that we go up here to File, New. Now we're going to go ahead and save it. So we're going to go to File, Save As. And we're going to make sure we get in the right folder. Remember, we should be going to our Google Drive. We set it up here, so you should have it pinned, but I don't. So I need to go to my drive and go to my Google Drive with my last name. And since this is the clickball assignment, I need to go into that folder, but then I'm going to change the name to my last name and hit save. So that's the only time we have to do the save as. Now we can just go up to File and do save. And remember, we want to do that often in case something happens and we don't want to have to restart our whole project. So the first thing we should talk about is using a grid. We haven't talked about the grid yet, and it's a great way to lay things out neatly. So if we look up here, go into our view here so we can play around in our frame, you'll notice up here what I'm circling, that's your grid stuff. So here is where we can click to set up our grid. So we can click on that, and we're going to set this up just to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So each block that our grid makes will be 32 by 32. Here you can pick whatever color you want your grid to be, so that doesn't matter. That's just for setting up purposes and design purposes. And then we want to show the grid. We want to be able to see it. And then Snap to makes our items pop into that set location. So we want to use that as well. So now once you do that, you can see you have a grid set up on your screen. So what we're going to do is grab some stuff out of the library. Hopefully you guys remember the library's down here. If it's not showing up, you need to go up to View and go to Toolbars and select it. So if we go to the library here, we can open this up, and what we're going to look for here is we're looking for Game Object 2. All right, there we are. So now we want to grab, what did it tell us to use? Ball 10. So we're going to grab the ball 10 and just drag it out here into the middle somewhere. Throw it out there. Now, we want to give this thing a meaningful name. So there's kind of multiple ways to get to this, but I'll just come over here and select on it. And I'm just going to right click and do rename. And now let's give this a name that has some meaning. So we can say ball tennis. Maybe we're going to use different types of balls in this game, so we need to specify what type of ball this actually is. We want to be in Game Objects 1 to get our walls. That's where they're at. All right, so I'm just going to go through real quick and say what the instructions are telling us to do. So it wants us to take corner wall tile 9 and place it in the top right. So I'm going to take this and place it in the top right. And I'm going to go ahead and rename it now because it wants us to rename it. So I right click, go to rename, and I'm going to call it wall corner top right. Easy enough, right? So now I'm going to go back and do the corner wall tile 10, which is going to be our bottom left. So I'm going to take that, drag it out here, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rename it, right click, wall corner bottom left. All right, so now let's keep going. Next one we want to do is the wall tile 11, which is the bottom right. So I'm going to drag that out, do the same thing again. rename, wall, corner, bottom, right. All right, we got one more corner to go, and that's wall tile 12, and that is our top left. So now I'm going to rename this wall, corner, top, left. All right, so now we have two more tiles. We have the wall top and the wall side to deal with. So I'm going to go find the wall top, which is wall tile 6. There we go, wall tile 6. So I'm just going to place this up here for right now. And then I need the side one as well, which is wall tile 7. So I'm going to place that one right there. All right, so now we can easily duplicate all of these things if we want as well. So I still need to rename these, so I should go ahead and do that. Let's call this guy wall top. And this is going to be named wall. I got it called wall right, but I got it placed on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and just, since the instructions, I'll stick with those. So we'll move it over to the right, call it wall right. All right. So now if we want to duplicate these things, we can click on it. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to duplicate. So if I want to create a row across here, I think there's 18 spots there, I think. So that means there's going to be 18 rows. Sorry, one row. And then there will be 18 columns because our rows are side to side, columns are up and down. So let's see if that was enough spots. Perfect. Okay, so now I can do the same thing down the right here as well. I can click on it, right click, go to duplicate, and this one is only going to have what? I think there's 13 here. So I'm going to say there should be 13 rows and one column because there's just one straight up and down line of them. There we go. Awesome. So that's how we duplicate. All right. So now what we're going to do is actually just copy this whole wall up here. So I'm going to create a marquee here. I want to make sure I have all of them selected. You want to make sure they're completely enclosed so you can see where my box is going. So now I've selected all those. And I can do Control C, Control V. Notice how my pointer becomes a crosshair. And now I'm going to place them right here. I can do the same thing down the side. So I'm just going to use my marquee. I want to make sure I enclose all of them. Got them highlighted. I can hit Control C to copy. And then I can do Control V to paste. And I'm going to place them on this side going down. So that made it a lot easier to build our walls. All right, so now we're going to set up the movement for the ball. So we're going to make sure we have our ball selected, and you can see the properties over here. If the properties aren't showing up, make sure you go to toolbars under view, make sure properties is selected, and you can move it to wherever you like. All right, so the first thing we need to do here is set it up. So we're going to come over here to the movement, and we're going to change the type to a bouncing ball. We've done this already, pretty straightforward. All right, so we're going to slow it down a little bit. We're going to set the speed to 40. Then for the bounce, we're not really going to mess with any of this stuff. But this will keep us from getting stuck. If our ball like starts bouncing around in a really close spot, this will help it from staying in that spot for so long. All right, so now we want to make sure our ball will bounce off these walls. So we have to set our walls to be an obstacle. So to do that, we're going to start with this top left here. So we're going to make sure we have the top left selected. And you come over here to the properties and go to the runtime properties. So you're going to change the obstacle type to obstacle. And Now, what you need to do is do this for every other type of object. So we only have to do it from one of the tops because that'll copy over to all the ones that we copied and pasted. Same for across the bottom here. So if we do one of these on the side, it will copy and paste that rule over for everything. So I'm going to do the top, and then you guys can finish up the sides. So I'm going to go here, change my obstacle type to obstacle. Now all of them have that. So now you need to make sure you do all four corners and one of the sides. Alright, so now we got to deal with a condition here to make the ball bounce off the walls. Because currently it will not. So what we're going to do is go to our event editor and we're going to make a new condition. And we're just going to say ball. Then we're going to go to
He made it alive! Oh, he's on his camera, he's on his
second here. Collisions and backdrop. So now we got when the ball collides with the background. And that's going to refer to the obstacles that we create. Well, we're going to want this ball to bounce. Alright, so now you just want to test it and make sure it's working correctly. Let it bounce off of all the walls and make sure it's not passing through anywhere.
Like the bottom page, library?
Alright, so now we need to work on our victory condition. You know, what does it take to win this game? And the way we're going to handle this is when the user can click the ball 10 times, then the game is over and the user has won. So that's going to be our victory condition for this game. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is we need to add our score in there. We've done this before on other projects already. So we're going to insert a new object. Alright, so under games, you can see that we've got score. So we're going to add our score in. Notice our cursor changed, so we're just going to click and place that somewhere, which we just did. Alright, so I want to make sure we have the score selected. So I've got it selected over here because I can't really see it here. And now let's just double click on it. And now we're going to change our colors. So you can just pick any color you want. I'm going to use the fill. And I'm going to go through and change all these numbers colors. There we go. Okay. So once we have that, now we need to actually set up our condition. So I'm going to go back to our event editor. I'm going to create a new condition. Alright, so our new condition is going to be that if we actually can click the ball, well, and the player score goes up, and then once the player score gets to 10, that means the player has won. So we're going to go to player, and we're going to compare player score. And well, we're going to say the game is over at a score of 10. So I'm going to put in 10. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we're going to send this to a win frame once we're done. So to do that, we need to get the storyboard controls. So I'm going to go there, and I'm just going to say, well, let's go to the next frame, even though we don't have it made yet. Alright, so we might as well go ahead and handle the user interface as well. So the player has to be able to click and on the ball to get a point. So we've got to deal with that. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a new condition. And we're going to go to the mouse pointer, click on it, and we're going to say a mouse. And then we're going to say when a user clicks an object, because we want them clicking the ball. And you can set up your buttons. We're going to use left button, and we're going to say single click. Now we have to select the object. Well, obviously it's going to be our ball, so we hit OK. Yeah. So now if the user actually clicks on the ball, we want to increment their score. So we're going to go over to player one, right click, I'm going to go to add to score. And we're just going to say, hey, let's add one every time. So now you should test it out. As you can see, got 10. Try to go to the next frame. Alright, so we also want to make sure we know how to add sounds. Remember, you can download your own sounds, but there are some sounds available on the hard drive inside the ClickTeam folder in the program files, x86, 32-bit. So let's go ahead and just kind of review all that. Let's say when the user clicks, we're going to play a sound. So we find our sounds, and we're going to go right click, samples, and we're going to play samples. Alright, so now I'm going to browse from a file, and we have to go to this PC, the C drive, program files, the x86, ClickTeam Fusion, and then samples, and there's our ball 6 sound that they were talking about. Alright, so now we've added our sound, but again, you can feel free to download your own and insert your own sounds. Alright, so now you should be able to test this out. Run. Sounds, make the noise when I hit the ball. Perfect.